And I'm looking at the knife, and I look up, and I feel like they're all looking at me, you know, to like get the knife and stick the dude on the couch. Like, they're not saying this, you know, but they're giving me like the signal, like, you know what I mean? And like if you want to join, you know, our cult or whatever it was, you know.
All right, Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
South Pasadena originally. I'm a San Gabriel Valley kid. I was there for 22 years, and I moved up to Spokane, Washington, where I was there off and on for about 20 years too. So, and now I'm back. I love the San Gabriel Valley. That's where I'm from, you know.
Tell me about your family.
Mom's a sweetheart, you know what I mean? And Pops was an outlaw. It was like just the pure, so I literally feel half and half. I got, you know, the sweetheart, I'm sensitive, and then there's the fucking, I don't give a fuck outlaw attitude too. That's really literally both. Women have fallen in love with both sides, you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
What was your childhood like?
You know, so I'm in the 80s, you know, and my dad is doing good now. I want to be clear to say that, because sometimes when I talk about my childhood, I forget to say that my dad has come out of it, but he, you know, went to prison for drugs. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of drug stuff. I remember a lot of parties, you know, just from like the glimpse of a child's eyes, parties, some chaos, some arguing, a lot of people in the house, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And then I remember my mom crying, you know, when I was 4 years old. I remember like the big explosion, Dad left, she's crying, and I went in there to give her a hug, and then that like put it in my mind, you know, that I need to protect her, I need to protect every woman in my life, I need to protect adults in my life, because they just didn't have it yet, you know what I'm saying? But there were kids, they were in their 20s, you know what I mean? I'm 42 now, so when I see like a 23-year-old, I'm like, yo, that's a youngster, you know what I mean? So yeah, so I think I have a little more empathy now, like, for their situation, you know what I'm saying? And my mom did the best she could, and my dad did the best that he could too, you know? But there was definitely an allure of like wanting to escape, you know, at 12, like with alcohol and weed, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
What kind of teenager were you?
It got wild, you know what I'm saying? It got wild for sure. So alcohol came into my life at 12, you know what I'm saying? I remember we drank gin. It tasted like rotten celery. That's all I remember. My young mind was like, shit tastes like celery, bro, you know? And then I got drunk the first time at 12, and then I remembered, okay, this is something I'm gonna put in the file, because I can escape right like that, you know what I mean? It's not a gradual, you know, try to be better, try to do this, try to, you know, I could turn it off right then, you know what I mean? So alcohol was the first thing, weed, and then, you know, like meth and the harder drugs started to trickle in about 14, 15, you know, be like in a trap house with like older women, you know what I'm saying? And they turned me on to dope, you know what I'm saying? And all that type of stuff, you know? So, and then as a young boy too, you know, it's not really looked at the same. We're like, oh, wow, I was with like an older woman and I'm 14 and she's in her 30s. And, you know, it's like cool to the homies, you know what I'm saying? But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, yo, that bitch was sick, bro. You know what I'm saying? Something was going on, you know what I mean? With her to be with like a kid like that, you know? So, bless my mom's sweetheart. I can't help but think she's probably gonna watch this shit. So, but I made it out, mama, you know what I mean? I made it out. But, so there was that, there was the allure of that, there was that danger, you know, right on the edge of danger. You know, my dad always said not to expose me to his lifestyle, you know, and people around would. So there's a lot of that, man, that happened, you know what I'm saying? So, and that affected my future, you know what I'm saying? It affected my future, you know what I'm saying?
How far did you go in school?
I graduated only because I caught a case in LA County for terrorist threats where I told a kid I was gonna kill him, and I went to his house to beat him up, and the sheriff's got me, boom. First time I went to East Lake Juvenile, first and only time I went to East Lake Juvenile, you know, that's Central Juvenile for anybody that doesn't know, you know. Then I'm in there, you know, and then they send me out on probation, house arrest and probation. And that started like recovery. Like the first time I really touched recovery, I was a kid with the house arrest anklet on my ankle at 17, you know. So then the other side started coming in, recovery, abstaining from drugs and alcohol, being open to, a different lifestyle, you know what I'm saying, than I was living, And so that came in too. That was like, what I think is higher power, put it in my head, this is another escape now. You don't have to continue to destroy yourself with drugs and alcohol. You can have a different life. And I teetered with both of those for a long time,
What do you think it is that, was it just the influence of your father who liked the dark side, the bad side of the
Nah,
craps?
because even he would tell me like, yo, you don't want this. You don't want to go to prison. You don't want to, but
Yeah, but kids don't do what their parents say. Kids do what their parents do.
For sure, you know what I'm saying? For sure. And I have, moms had this other side. Like I said, it was just half and half, and there was other people. I've met other people that were outside of my family also, you know what I mean, that were doing hard drugs and stuff like that. So yeah. So I got about a year and a half sober when I was 18, 19. It was right around 2001, right after the towers and everything. It was like November of 01 is when I first started. Then I relapsed about a year and a half after that, and then I was really hardcore. And I was about 20 years old, really hardcore on the dope, on meth and shit like that. So,
What does that lifestyle look like for you?
man, for me, it was psychological torture, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't know, this about me. People that are close in my life know. People that have gotten loaded with me know how I am, but my mind like splits. It was like, and I've searched for the answers for a long time. At 20 years old, I've always heard, I can misspeak. I'm sure there'll be psychologists in the comments that are gonna, and I please come. But my mind split in a way where I not only had psychosis and psychotic episodes, paranoia, but I started having delusional thinking, like the onset of almost schizophrenia. Capgras delusion is one thing where I thought my family were imposters, So like literally I'd be sitting here like with Mark and I'd be like, oh shit, that's not really Mark. That's somebody acting like, you know what I mean? And this is happening, like my sweet mother is trying to help me. I'm like thinking, yo, she's not herself.
This is meth psychosis?
Oh yeah. And it's in a way where, I'll be around old gangsters and they'll be like, knock it off. What the fuck's wrong with you? That's not real. You know what I mean? But I'm like, fuck, I wish I could, man, cause it's, it's dark, you know what I'm saying? It's dark. When you feel, I felt so alone because I felt like my whole family was gone. These actors were in their place,
Is it actually the drug or is it just from not sleeping for 7 days?
I think it's all of it. I think I already had, they said like bipolar already, I think was like kind of, the easy diagnosis to give me with some of my mood disorder stuff.
That drug will bring on schizophrenia and everything else.
For sure, you know what I mean? Because now I'm 6 years clean and sober and I don't experience that, you know what I mean? Once in a while, there'll be like a trigger or something, like not often though, Living in LA when I this is where it all first happened, there's a lot of memories, the way the sun hits the sidewalk, the way the smells of like the plants and everything, like sometimes I got to check myself, But it's not, I don't know. So the Capgras delusion thing was huge because I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I was so alone because nobody around me knew what I was talking about. Even the people that were in the throes of addiction didn't know what I was talking about. They just knew I was tripping, And until later in life, I was like in an outpatient program and I'm like, they're watching some video and they talked about it on there and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like the kid in The Shining. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, wow, there's a name for it, man. Oh, thank God I found a name for it. You know what I mean? Because that means it's happened to not only me. There's other people out there.
And this is meth psychosis you're talking about?
Capgras delusion, where you think your family are imposters, And so, yeah, meth psychosis, because they knew easily like, okay, he's paranoid. He did too much dope. You know what I mean? He needs a sandwich and a nap is like the cure for, the street cure for meth, for that type of shit, But I've also known people that get stuck in that, So that was my fear, is that I was going to lose my mind and end up stuck there, you know what I mean? Because as you could see, I have like I have a personality. I have like love in my heart. I'm storyteller and shit. And that shit makes it a very serious world. I'm not talking. I'm like frozen, I'm frozen watching everything. You know what I mean? Phil, what's the matter? Like I'm in a glass, you know what I mean? It's torturous, Other than that, I'm okay though, Mark. So anyway, the truth for me is that I gotta stay off drugs and alcohol, you know what I mean? I just know it. Everybody knows it that's ever known me, it's literally the Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Is it as simple as a decision like that though?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're addicted, I don't know what it took, man. And I don't wanna, scare the naysayers by saying it was the grace of God, but that's what I believe. And I also believe that I met that with my determination and my own willpower to meet the will of that. You know what I mean? Because mental health ain't no joke, man. When you're declining like that so rapidly, and everything's, that's why when I see like somebody that's homeless talking to themselves, that's not like, I don't make fun of it or I try not to judge that because that's what I got coming if I get high again. You know what I'm saying? It's what I got coming. Like I see it and I'm like, please keep me close, keep me close to this thing, this recovery thing,
How'd you get clean?
So like I said, it came in my mind, when I was a teenager. So I always knew that was there, and then I'm getting loaded and I'm going through all these things, all these psychological things. And I'm thinking like, man, please, like just the comfort and warmth of recovery, to have that again would be just so phenomenal. I'd pray, please help me get back there. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, that was it. And I started making friends, that were in sobriety also. So I'd be reaching out to them. Hey, I'm really struggling, I remember calling my friend one time. I don't think I'm going to make it, I was pretty resigned to the fact that death was coming, I could feel it, you know what I mean? When you're out there, you could feel it. It's like prison or death. You could just feel it, like the steps, that you're taking. And I could tell something was going to happen, you know what I'm saying? And I just kept trying, man. I just kept trying, If there's any message I could say is just keep trying, you know what I'm saying? Like I just kept trying. I try, then the obsession would wake up to get loaded. I get loaded and I'd be out for another year or whatever. But I just kept trying. Please, I got to try. I went back to treatment, detox, treatment, And then I eventually went to a place that was a hardcore sober living. It was really militant. Make your bed. If you don't make your bed, you got to mop the club. Like, it's hardcore, And that's what I needed. I needed like real structure, you know what I'm saying? But it got to the point where I was started acting out, you know what I mean? Like allegedly, you know what I'm saying? There was a time where, okay, so this was the first onset, right? Where I'm in a garage with all these people, older dudes. I'm like 20 years old. And, we're all in the street lifestyle. And there was a kitchen knife on the table, you know what I'm saying? And everybody's just talking to themselves, And I'm looking at the knife and I look up and I feel like they're all looking at me, to like get the knife and stick the dude on the couch. Like they're not saying this, but they're giving me like the signal, like, you know what I mean? And like if you want to join, our cult or whatever it was, And man, I was scared, but I was like,
this is your imagination.
I picked it up and I said, you don't think I'll do it? And everybody's like, oh, what the hell are you doing? Whoa, you know what I mean? Like they weren't telling me that, man. You know what I'm saying? Thank God. Like, and the toughest one of the whole squad was like, everybody clear out of here. Give me the knife. You know what I mean? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and I'm like, I thought you know what I mean? Confused, man. And it's what I believe Christians would call the enemy, or mental illness or whatever that just takes a hold of your mind, and wants you to do some shit that you can't take back, you know what I'm saying? So there was a time then allegedly where I did act out. I thought these people were trying to get me years later and allegedly hit a guy with the rock, you know what I mean? And because I remember my mind was saying, you gotta jump, man, you gotta jump, like they're gonna get you. Like, you better jump, Phil, you better jump, like working on me, working on my mind, And I did, but I was loaded. I was on drugs. I had been up days. I hadn't eaten, you know what I mean? And I mean, the darkness got a hold of me, And I started to act out, So I knew like Like it's over. It's going to be over soon. I'm going to do something I can never take back. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's going to kill me, shoot me in the back, something. You know what I mean? Like when you're out there that crazy, it's like your days are numbered one way or the other, So I'm just, and bless that guy because he didn't have it coming, and he hit me up later about it, and I was able to make an amends to him, you know what I mean, that like healed a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? Because that's some unforgivable shit, you know what I mean? I could have killed him for sure, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but fuck, man, sorry, man. I knew I was gonna talk about these things when I came, but it's scary, man. I'm just so full of fear. I became really dangerous, and I'm an employable person. I've worked in film. I do music. There's all these things, So like, it's literally my mental health and life depends on me not putting that shit in my system again, So now that I'm off of the run and I've got 6 years out of that, there's certain things I got to do to maintain my sobriety. You know what I mean?
What helps you with that?
So, I mean, meetings, step work stuff, I got to be careful because we have traditions of not to like, go too far into it. But meaning like if I were to say all this stuff and then I get loaded again, that could dissuade people from, whatever. But all I can say is that if I were to get ever loaded again, I would hope maybe somebody that has seen this or in my life, can help me come back around, man. You know what I mean? Because I honestly, the reason I was getting loaded in the first place was to escape. Then my mind became a prison of itself, and then I couldn't escape my own mind, And really the hell is when you're getting loaded and you can't feel that relief, you know what I mean? The first time you drank, there's that relief, the weed, you're chilling, nothing's wrong, you know what I mean? Start doing the hard stuff, starts getting to you, you know what I mean? And to me, for sure, and it just flipped everything, flipped my whole mind, man, So, no pressure, you know what I'm saying? Better stay sober, no pressure, you know what I mean?
Do you have kids?
No, I don't. I've always been, I don't know. No, I don't. You know what I'm saying? And I've always wanted to fall in love, and I'm getting up there in age now, so there's things that I'm open to now that I wasn't open to before. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of that, I don't want to blame it on some of the stuff back in the day when I was young, but like a young man that's charged like that with all those things happening, you know what I'm saying? I think I was pretty scared of like relationships, love, like getting into it with the wrong person, having a kid with the wrong person. I had plenty of homegirls and homeboys that fight with their baby mom or baby dad, and that shit just always seemed like I'm crazy enough, you know what I'm saying? Than to be fighting over who's got who or what's gonna happen, but I could tell that like my higher power is working in my life in an extreme way, especially now. Even this opportunity to come here, try to spread awareness, on certain things, mental health stuff, you know what I mean? Not only drug addiction, but when you have mental health stuff and you're addicted to drugs and then it gets in there, it's different, you know what I mean?
They go together so often.
I mean, you see it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, yeah, I've just always felt different in that, you know what I'm saying? And I also prayed to get sober over and over again. So who knows if there was like a side that made it even that much more horrible for me out there so that I would have to get out, you know what I'm saying?
What are you doing now with your time?
So I do music, I was working in Spokane, Washington with the homeless, shout out to all them, man. I mean, there's a fentanyl crisis that is just killing people, man. I mean, there was a kid, a youngster, and we all loved him, and he didn't have the right insurance. And these places wouldn't take him. A lot of these places wouldn't take him, and then he got loaded again. He died. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just horrifying, man, like the stuff that's going on now, And I'm an ex-tweaker, so I tried, heroin a couple times. Thank God I didn't like it. It was like, but this stuff they got now, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It feels like it's just pure death, And when you're addicted to pure death, it's like somebody told me a long time ago, the line between high and dead is so small, you know what I'm saying? And I know me, when I was getting loaded and I'm like, this might be it right here when I take this drug into my system, it's because I didn't value my life anymore and I was tired of the ups and downs, you know? So, yeah.
What do you think the cause of it all is? What's behind the desire to even self-destruct like that?
I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, anybody that's like paying attention, like the world's in disarray. There's a lot of division and all that stuff. But I mean, you know, you've been around, right? Like when I'm a kid, it was crack, meth, heroin. Oh no, you know what I mean? Like, seems like it keeps climbing higher and higher, you know? But if there were a kid like me, it was to escape fear, escape pain, you know, turn off all the self-doubt, turn off the worries, turn off the, you know, emotional like abuse and all the stuff that might, you know, hit me, you know what I'm saying? And now it's just deadly, man. I mean, that's deadly too. You can end up, you know, I've known plenty of people, alcohol poisoning, you know what I mean? You know, heroin overdose, stuff like that, you know. Shout out to my friend Kim, who passed away in 2015 as well. You know, she was the first time that I realized, you know, I love somebody, they're right there, you know, and then they're gone forever, you know what I mean? Like that was the first time I really dealt with like grief. So it was kind of hard for me to get clean and sober again because I had this new thing called grief, you know what I mean? And I remember, shout out my friend Dave, said he had heard an older woman say grief is like love with no place to go, you know what I'm saying? It hits you. Anybody that deals with grief, it's like, it's rough, you know? And I felt alone in that too, where I like loved this woman, you know, and then she's gone, man. You know what I'm saying? And she was fun and had a great personality and all this stuff. And you know what I mean? And she would have, you know, and I remember telling her, if you can sober up, you know, like you could help so many women, you know what I'm saying? Like I just knew it because she was such a leader, you know? And then she didn't, and she got high and she died, or we don't know if they killed her. You know what I'm saying? But they threw her body in the lake up there, you know? And so you think about that, you know what I mean? Like the anger, the grief, the sadness, you know, that changed my life forever, you know? Because I still think about her. I got her name on me, you know what I mean? And she was just such a sweetie, man. But she was wild though too. You know what I'm saying? She was wild with it, man. Anybody that knew her, man, she was wild with it. But she would have, you know, she tried to protect me in many ways, you know. And when I relapsed, I had 9 years at one time. Then I relapsed. I was out for 3. Now I'm back for 6. Right? She was around me for that 9 years, and then my relapse, and she was babysitting me as I was like out getting high again. She's like watching over me, making sure people aren't robbing me. I was out of the game. I was out of the, you know. And
what is it like? So you're 6 years clean.
Yeah. Now
is it still a struggle?
No. Nah, it's not. Like I see the gifts, you know, of sobriety.
But
you know
you were at 9 years before and you relapsed.
That's the fear. That's always the fear, is that I know what happens, you know? And so there's always that fear that like literally I joke about it, like no pressure, like my mind state and everything depends on this. Man, I better stay on it though, you know? I saw where I was at, you know, I was fence walking for about 2 years. Into my 9 year, about 7 years, you know, angry, more irritable, doing music stuff. I was, you know, just, you know, my behaviors, lots of women, lots of stuff, you know what I mean? And just working long hours, working, you know, in this way where I just wasn't giving enough time to recovery, you know? And then I remembered why I needed recovery, you know what I'm saying? Because then when I crash out heavy, you know what I'm saying? And
what helps you walk a straight line now?
Support people that go through the same thing as me, you know what I mean? I have guys that I trust. There's women in my life that I trust, you know, mentors, you know, because my mind will still work on me, you know what I'm saying? My mind will still get me like, you know, get me to, I have a mood disorder, you know what I'm saying? So I, you know, I have a therapist, I have a psych doc, I have a fucking, you know, meetings I go to, like I gotta exercise, you know what I mean? Like there's things that I need to do in order to keep myself straight, you know? Cause I'm, I mean, there's been times where I'm in, it's the winter in Spokane and I'm picturing a gun in my mouth, you know what I mean? Every day, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, please stop, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to fucking die. I just don't want to be in pain anymore, you know what I mean? And now I'm back in LA, it's like sunny. I know my God's got a sense of humor because I'm on a scissor lift with the sun frying my face off in the desert. And I can hear him saying, you asked for it, you wanted the sun, here it is, you know what I mean? But I struggle with depression down here, I have, you know what I mean? And so I know it's not only, winter and stuff like that. But when you're dealing with all this shit and it's snowy outside, fucking no. You know what I'm saying? Never mind, homie, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah.
Phil, let me ask you one last question. What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in all of this?
I really got to take care of myself, you know what I mean, first. My mental health, I got to take care of, It's like they say with the, when a plane's crashing, you got to put the mask on yourself and then your child, then your, and that's what I got to do because I'll run myself ragged and burn out, and I got to watch out, you know what I'm saying? I really got to watch out because I don't want to slide again,
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Wish you plenty of luck, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks. When I was designing the first White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.